We cannot ask for a much better start to the 2025 college football season than the Iowa State number 22 versus Kansas State game. Wow, what a all-around fiasco it was from the opening possession that winds up in a muffed punt from the talented Dylan Edwards. We did not see him again. That was the only play. He was out there on the field. He gets hurt, muffs it. Iowa State then fumbles. Rocco Becht able to get that touchdown right after the muff punt. We saw a whole bunch of turnovers, takeaways in the first half of that game, and everything shifted at halftime. The game got a lot cleaner. The quality of play was a whole lot better. Let's start with Kansas State because the expectation Kansas State was going to win this game. They were favored by a field goal, and most people believe that Kansas State's front seven was the best in probably the Big 12 all around, at least going into this game. And Toby Osunsami had a spectacular performance. If you didn't know who this kid was, you probably do now. He had 2 sacks, had a fantastic performance already, got himself amongst the big boards as a guy that could wind up being drafted. A couple years ago, he was a 6'2", 210-pounder. Now he's 6'3", 250 with a huge impact. Avery Johnson, the quarterback for the Wildcats, was inconsistent. And that's what happens when you play in cold weather, when the ball is a little bit slick. He was not able to be accurate outside the numbers, a couple of really wide throws, and he was not able to rip the ball down the middle of the field. The only touchdown that really had a good amount of merit to it, of course, when he used his legs and then the wide open throw, when we thought that Iowa State had the game completely sealed, they go down and have that huge completion for the touchdown. That was spectacular, and they go, 65 yards immediately, the first play after Iowa State took a 10-point lead. Kansas State's defense, though, was really on their heels once it hit about the 6-minute mark in the third quarter. We were all expecting Carson Hansen to have a tremendous impact, go over 100 yards, especially when you start to see the heavy rain pour, that the game plan was definitely going to shift towards Rocco Becht runs, the short passing game. Carson Hansen getting 20-plus carries on the game. He winds up with 16 for 71 yards. That's 4.5 a carry, but the bulk majority of that coming in the second half, really getting some nice strong runs. We saw him get 3 runs over 10 yards there in the fourth quarter, in a massive factor on that final drive. They got the ball with, just about 5 minutes remaining in that final possession, and they were able to completely run out the clock. I believe it was like 6:16 once they got the ball back, and they ran the entire thing off when Hansen caught that ball in the fourth down. Now, that was a very gutsy call, because do you kick the field goal, extend it to a 6-point lead? Now, you might not believe this, but before the play, I was thinking to myself, so if you kick the field goal, you go up 6 points, you are automatically giving them 4 downs the entire drive, because if you don't score a touchdown, you lose this game. If it were a spot where you don't pick up the 4th down, on that 4th and 3, you do not pick it up, Rocco Becht's pass is deflected, Carson Hansen gets tackled, 2-yard gain, stopped short. Iowa State, if they got into field goal range, likely is going to be kicking a field goal if that thing is shorter than 50 yards, even with the very difficult conditions. And so you're, in a sense, only working with 3 downs to pick up a first down and to work with. You're not able to have that extra one once you are about inside of the 35-yard line. There is an incentive to go for it if you're down by 4, of which you have a bit less of if you were only down by 3, because you could tie the game, send it to overtime with the field goal. They are aggressive. They go for the win outright. What I'm saying is, I thought, go for the win now, because if you don't pick it up, still you have a great chance, and most likely a team that's down 3, it's almost like a mindset that you would like to get the win, but for the most part, the goal of that drive is, all right, get the field goal, send it to overtime, and if we get the touchdown, it's a little bit extra, and are able to win this football game. All around, this thing was a whole bunch of fun. How about the effectiveness of Rocco Becht? A beautiful passing touchdown on the right side. We saw another very nice one on the left side. He hit Eskelsid for a touchdown later on in the game, and in the first half when he hit Dominic Overby. It's so nice to see these new sense of production from these wide receivers, guys that just had no possible way to get their hands on the darn football. When you had the Jaden Higgins second-round pick, he gets drafted by the Houston Texans, now catching passes for the terrific quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and then his teammate, Jalen Noel. These guys were phenomenal. Just 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns combined from them the last couple of seasons there for the Cyclones. These guys were phenomenal, but now we see Eskelson, we see Overby, Berkey, Brahmer, all of these players that didn't have opportunities that now are going to get the football and show just what they are capable of. That's exactly what we love about college football. It's so dissimilar to the NFL in the sense where it's like, all right, we got stars. This kid's going to be here for a decade, see him develop, turn into a man, and be a foundational part of the system. In college, if guys are very good, the longest you will have them is for 4 seasons, and they are off to the NFL. Most likely, they are only going to be there for 3 years. So my disappointment was a lot so in the sense of Kansas State being really pushed around that second half, that Carson Hansen was able to lean, that Rocco Becht had that rushing touchdown. They really took advantage. Becht had 12 carries for 18 yards on the game. Of course, in the sense of college football, they take away, it's one of the dumbest things, you take away the rushing yards on sacks. Becht was 14 of 28 passing, a $180 and the 2 touchdowns, whereas Avery Johnson, 70% completion percentage, 21 of 30, the 2 touchdowns. But overall, I did not think the effective play came from Avery in what I had expected. I thought he was going to take a massive step. Okay, there was the cold weather, there was the wet weather that really impacted his ability to throw the football. Now, the outlook for Kansas State, you've got North Dakota, Army, and UCF before a road game at Baylor. C3 wins, them able to bounce back. We don't exactly know how it's going to play out if they are still ranked. Most likely they drop out of the top 25. Someone else slides in. They could be at the 24, 25 spot. So we'll wind up seeing, but definitely still have a chance to win the Big 12. This thing is going to be very tough. On the other side of things, for Iowa State, after that nice win, we are likely going to see them into the top 20 somewhere around 17 through 19. Well, they've got South Dakota before a home game against the Iowa Hawkeyes in that really big game within Iowa, that matchup. But after that, Arkansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati before a road game at Colorado. Absolutely, the trajectory for them is great. They don't have a game against a ranked opponent what's looking like until they play Arizona State at home. So we could see something like 7-1 from Iowa State before we see a rematch against Arizona State, and what could ultimately determine who goes to the Big 12 championship game. But positive from the Cyclones, these types of games are exactly what change the trajectory of a season. I know this game's in August, but it could absolutely determine who winds up being in the Big 12 championship game and who gets to the college football playoff in December. So thank you so much for watching. This was a phenomenal game. We're so excited that college football is back. Whether you're a Kansas State fan, there's still positives to take away. The front seven is very good, but still the question mark surrounding your quarterback in Avery Johnson. And then for Iowa State, this team can win ugly. That was the definition of an ugly game. So a lot to look forward to. You got an easy one against South Dakota before you look to square off against Iowa, who looks to be interesting with Gronowski at quarterback. So that should be a fun matchup in a couple of weeks. So I appreciate you so much. Make sure to subscribe and tune in for more content in the future, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.